Hello, guys. This is episode 21 of Latino Vegano, and I'm your host, Roger. Guys, I like to talk about different topics related to veganism, and today is not an exception. This week, I had the opportunity to have an interview with a friend of mine, Araceli Rodriguez, aka Woke Vegana. She's a total anarchist, liberationist advocating for the liberation of humans, earth, and animal. She also organized the Radical Book Club. Woke Vegana's mission is to create a world where humans, earth, and animals are free from any violence and oppression. We talk about different things from animal rights movement lacking of diversity and inclusivity, racism, total liberation, among other social justice topics. This is going to be a great interview. Without further ado, I'll leave you guys with Woke Vegana.
latinoyvegano.com.
So, how are you?
Yeah, good. Just slept in today, so it was really nice. Yeah, I've been out protesting. So today I was like, okay, I need a break. I'm gonna sleep in.
Right.
And
Okay.
yeah, so
You say you were protesting?
yeah, I've been out for like the last like 4 days.
Oh, for real? Right there
Mhm.
in LA? I
Yeah,
mean,
in LA.
in LA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. Are
So
you in LA?
no. I actually live in Houston,
Oh,
yeah. But I'm in Texas. But I've been to LA many times before. Uh, yeah, and actually I've been to California quite a few times from San Diego, the Bay Area, and also been to LA several times.
okay,
I
got it.
like it out there. It's nice.
Yeah, yeah. LA's really cool. I like the people and the mountains, the ocean.
Yeah, it's
Together.
super vegan friendly as well.
Yeah, it's like really hard not to find vegan food. Like, you have to be like, all right, like where isn't like vegan food? So it's
Right,
yeah.
right, right, right. That's
Uh-huh.
that's that's great. So
Yeah.
I wanted to. I mean, it's a pleasure. Thank you for making the time so we can talk. Because I think talking to you right now it comes so handy and it's like perfect because it's all the things that's going on. But before we jump into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about you about how you went vegan and where does the name Woke Vegana came from?
Okay,
What's the story
yeah.
behind it?
Yeah. Um so I went vegan. I don't know, I it took me a while to go vegan, but I first like went vegetarian in high school, and
Hmm.
at that time I was just like I grew up like poor, so like I didn't have access to like the internet or anything like that, and like I
Hmm.
tried to do it, but I just did it like the wrong way. Like I was just like replacing everything, like all my meat with cheese, and it was just couldn't I couldn't do it like long term. So that only lasted for like a few months,
Hmm.
and then later on I was like, when I was like 21, I like ran into like a leaflet, or like I came across a leaflet, and then it just reminded me of all the videos I had seen about like slaughtered animals and like
Hmm.
all the violence and stuff. And I was like so naive. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is still going on. Like I thought this would have been fixed already. Like what is, like I was like in shock. I was like, oh my gosh, like why is this still happening?
Right,
And
right,
like
right.
so like, oh yeah. So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go vegetarian again. And so I did. And then at this time I did have access to the internet. Like I was living away from home, and so I did a bunch of research. And then during like that research, I just came across veganism, and I was like, well, if I'm gonna do it this time, I'm gonna go all the way, and I'm gonna stick with it. And yeah, ever since that day, like yeah, I've just been vegan. So it took me like a month. Like I was like vegetarian for a month, and then I
Hmm.
just like switched over to like vegan. And then yeah, so that's kind of how I started. Yes, it took a while.
Oh well,
Hmm.
but it took a while, but we're glad that you did. So that's a beautiful part of it, right?
Yeah.
Is how that realization came through. So you was vegetarian then and you decided to go vegan. It was anything that impacted you in your life to make that transition?
Um, I mean, I just think that the like for me personally, it was just like all just being reminded of like all of the violence against animals. Because when I first went vegetarian in high school, I watched like the videos, and like they were so horrific. I was just so like shocked and appalled. I was just like, oh my gosh, like why are we treating animals like this? Like
Right.
I did not know that there was so much torture involved before killing them.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just didn't sit right with me. And like I'm like a person who, you know, yeah, I love animals. Like I think they're really cool. Like they're really innocent. And so like it was just like I just couldn't participate because
Yeah.
it was just like going against everything that I valued and thought was wrong. And so I was just like, I just can't. Like I went vegan for the animals for sure. Like that was like um what did it for me. It wasn't health, it wasn't environment, but
Right.
but all of those other benefits, like your health and your environment and all that kind of stuff, that's what like, it kept me going. I was like, oh, like it's good for the environment and it's good for my health. Okay, well, I guess I should stick with this because there's like no negative thing about it. It's like all pluses. And so, and you're not, supporting violence against animals. So I was like, okay, yeah, this is this makes sense for me. And so
Yeah.
just picked it up.
Yeah, it's true.
Mhm.
Same as me. I went vegan 18 years ago, and the reason why I did it was because of the animal. And just to give you a quick synopsis of how that happens, it was kind of very similar. I wasn't vegetarian first, but in my situation, I came across someone that was vegan, and from a health standpoint, and they introduced me to veganism from that standpoint, from the health standpoint. But to me at that age, like I was like 24, it wasn't really a big impact because I didn't have any health issue, right, per se. So I needed something stronger. So I started researching about it, and I came across a couple of PETA videos where they have like slaughtering animals and stuff like that. And I went, no pun intended, cold turkey the next day. I was like, okay, I'm
Mhm.
not part of this. So I was impacted by that. And like you say, also, I'm very, I love animals. And to me, it was like, there's no brainer. There's nothing else. I literally find out about the health and all the other benefits later on in life. But
Mhm.
initially, I started with the animal part of it, which I believe
Mhm.
allows me to stay vegan forever, because it's like this is not stopping. I'm not just looking for a quick fix to help me lose weight and then I go, no disrespect to anyone, just my point of view, right? And
Mhm.
then once I'm done getting that, then I'll back into my regular eating. So for me, it's like, I mean, I never want to be part of this, so I'm not going to be going back.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah. So tell us a little bit about what's your activism, what, because you had some very unpopular posts on your social media, and I want to talk a little bit about that because I feel like it's a topic that's not being talked a lot. And tell us a little bit about how that came out. Why did you decide to speak about these topics, and what's the motivation behind it?
Yeah. So yeah, like when I first started in animal rights activism, I was introduced to it um, in like I guess like the stereotype, or like the typical way, which is like very like mainstream, white centered, animals first centered, nothing else matters, just the animals, nothing else. And so, yeah, and I don't know, I got involved with this one group, and they just portrayed themselves as like being very like, like intersectional and like caring about humans and this and that. But like
Yeah.
some of the actions that they did like didn't really align with what they said.
Mm,
And so after I left that group, um, which was a group called Direct Action Everywhere. I organized with them for 4 years, and I experienced some really awful things in that group, including like racism and like some like I guess I would say that it was like colonization too. Um, yeah, and so after I left that group, I just like I wanted I didn't want anybody else to experience the things that I had experienced. um, and so I just started my page, and I wanted to like offer education for vegans that were looking for that kind of thing, and also like decenter like whiteness and this animal first type thinking, because it's really detrimental to the movement. Like we want to be seen, we want animal rights to be seen as as a social justice movement, but
Right.
it's not, because it doesn't it, it's not really caring about anything else but animals. Like if we're
Mm,
really racist but still caring about animals, that's not social justice. If we're
no.
really sexist and we allow people like, I don't know, like right wingers into the movement and tolerate that stuff, that's not social justice. That's like the opposite. And so we can't call ourselves a social justice movement until we've addressed those things, until we've said, no, like we are not going to allow racists into this movement. No, we're not going to allow people who are transphobic or homophobic or any of those things. Once we do that, then we can say, yeah, we are a social justice movement, but right now we can't take on that label.
Oh, okay.
And so
So you felt like they were just one-sided. They were just focused on the animal, but the other aspects is they were neglecting them. So you wanted to actually have a wider scope that
mhm,
that actually touches all these other elements and not just focus on the animal rights. Not saying that the animal rights is not important, but also all the other elements are important too.
mhm,
Just inequality, racism, etc. Is that correct?
yeah. And I also, another thing that I was trying to accomplish with my page is that
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to like build bridges with other um, social justice movements, and I think that I have done that. Like because of my posts that I've made, people from like the left, like big pages from like the left have started to follow me, and now like I'm kind of like introducing them to animal rights and veganism from like a holistic point of view, a total
Right.
liberation point of view. So I think that's really good. I mean, I think I've accomplished a few of my goals, definitely like building bridges
Yeah.
and educating vegans. And so just, yeah, it's been really cool. hmm
That's great. So you also mentioned that you have a Mexican background. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
Mexican. Yep.
you're
Yeah.
Mexican. And what do you think is the role? I'm Panamanian, by the way. What's
Oh,
the
cool. Nice.
yeah? So what's
Great.
the role? What's the role that Latinos or Hispanic play in with this whole racism from your standpoint? Because I'll tell you my experience quickly. I face a lot of situations where people always ask me, "So what are you?" Yes, I get a question asked a lot of the times because and they see my skin color and then they think I'm something, and then they hear my voice and they sound something else. So they see me speaking Spanish and I'm like, what? So it's people are all confused. So it's honestly, it's so, to me it's so mind-boggling because going back to Panama, uh, we don't really see people color, even though that I'm not saying that it doesn't, racism doesn't exist, but it's mostly a social status thing, right?
Mhm.
They look at you based on your status. So if you are rich, they don't care what color you are, right? They treat
Mhm.
you a certain way. So it kind of goes with status. It doesn't really go by skin color, right? So here I see that a lot. So to me, it seems like we're going backward. What's your
Mhm.
opinion on that? Like once Latino, what role they'll play, and what some of the things that you experience, and what can we do? Like what can we?
Yeah, I mean, I think um, I mean, my personal experience is just like when people like find out that, I'm vegan and I'm Mexican and stuff, like it's kind of like, oh, like how can you be both? Like, like Mexicans, they eat like all these animals, like everything, is like animal based and there's like milk and everything and cheese. And I'm just like, well, Mexicans don't like, we also eat, beans and rice and avocados and corn and like all these other things that are not just like animal based. Like a lot of like the food that's Mexican is like pretty vegan friendly. Like when I think, like when I'm like out and people are like, oh, like where should we go or whatever, like I always think like Mexican. Like for me it's like so like easy to veganize, like beans and rice. That's like it's so easy and you can find it anywhere at any vegan or any Mexican restaurant or like any restaurant really, like that's like Latinx or whatever. So it's, yeah, I don't know. I think it's like it's like it's easier than trying to be vegan with like American food, because
Yeah.
it's like American food is just like what, like burgers, like pizza, like that's like really hard to find vegan. But like Mexican food, you can always find like the avocado and all that stuff. So yeah, And I mean, yeah, and like in Mexico, I mean, I didn't really grow up in Mexico, but I know that in Mexico, like it is, it's there's like colorism there, and so like the lighter you are, like you know, the less discrimination, the more
Right.
respect, the more money you probably have. So that's like a thing that's in Mexico. It does like colorism and racism does exist there, unfortunately. But
Perfect.
yeah.
Yeah. So, what are some of the issues that you some of the most common issues that you go and have protests for? Like, what are some of the issues that you are more passionate about? Can you tell us a little bit about those?
I guess like recently, I mean, it's for like BLM and like police brutality and things like that. But I've also gone to protest for like immigration rights, like women's rights, um, yeah, things like that. Definitely I guess the other thing that I'm pretty passionate about is like immigration rights. I think, yeah, I mean, that's like a big issue right now that needs to be fixed. And yeah, I'm Mexican and right now, like, we're the target. Like when people think about immigration, it's automatically, oh, those Mexicans, we got to get them out, we got to build that wall and all that stuff. So it's like yeah, it's like, and so yeah, I mean, I was undocumented, I'm not anymore, but so I've kind of like I've lived that life, and so it's really hard, you know. It's something that like needs to be addressed. And ever since I've been started to decolonize too, that's been just like another reason to address that issue even more, because as Mexicans, like we are like Native American. That is our like racial identity, and most like half of the U.S. is was part of Mexico, and like the U.S. like the parts that were Mexico, they were stolen from us.
That's
And
right.
so yeah, like we like from a decolonial perspective, I don't think that we should even listen or pay, like follow like these European borders that were placed on our land. We didn't put those borders there, so I'm not gonna. I don't think any person should really follow them. And every time um, that we cross the border illegally, it's an act of resistance against colonization. And I fully support people just doing that and just being like, hey, like I'm not going to listen to this. And even though they may not be thinking about it that way when they do it, I do. I think that it's an act of resistance. So yeah.
Yeah. Great. So, what will be a suggestion for immigration rule? So, I'm an immigrant. Also, I wasn't born here in the U.S. So I came here I came here to U.S. and I stay here. So I completely feel every single pain because I've been there, done that, right? And it's also I mean I face all the issues with discrimination. So I've even been, I mean, I'm gonna tell you this. I've even been discriminated by Black people because they say you're not Black enough because I speak Spanish. Can you believe that?
That's ridiculous.
So,
First black. I,
so so I always tell them, I don't know what my language has to do with my skin color, right, or my race. So race and nationality and ethnicity is all completely different things. So my ethnicity is one thing, and my nationality is one thing. So the one thing I always use is you can take an Asian person, for example, right, and he was born here in the U.S. to speak English. So what that person is to you, I always have that question. They will say, "Well, Asian American is the answer that they gave me." So what that makes me different, right? So anyways, I think it's a lot of education in that sense. And you feel like one is what can we do to support the border rules, and what would be a suggestion that you can think that we can be implemented, and also what can we do as vegans, also as people, to support that as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I think, well, I'm for no borders. I don't think that borders should exist. I think that we should be able to travel freely all over the world. I mean, we're humans. Like, why do we need a passport to go anywhere? Like, we should just be sharing resources and just like, you know, letting people live wherever they want. Like, it's ridiculous that borders even exist. Um, and I guess like a way that vegans could support like immigrants and stuff is like definitely fighting for like higher wages for people that like pick our food, and supporting, you know, boycotts that are like currently happening. I know one is against crystals. So yeah, I mean, just like, you know, when people point out that like veganism isn't cruelty free, like just, you know, kind of like reflect on that and don't take it like so like personally, and just like, you know, try to listen to what we're saying when we say things like that, because it isn't. We can't go around saying, oh, it's cruelty free, it's cruelty free, when like most of the vegetable, or yeah, like most of the food that we eat is like vegetables and fruit, right? And so like we have to acknowledge that it's not. And
Right.
yeah, it is hurting some people. And if, yeah, so we can't, yeah, it's like we can't be saying that.
Right. So, I know you mentioned about the border. We should have no borders. What's your take on the, for example, like the European Union, that they allow everyone that's part of the union to travel and live and stay in those countries? They do have to go to some political aspect of like, okay, we want to know where you're gonna be, what are you gonna be doing, but they allow anyone that is in the union can travel to this country. Do you think that if they implement something like this worldwide, would that kind of be like a middle ground or no?
I mean, I would think that that would be like way better than what's in place.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, first, yeah, yeah. I mean, I would be for that, and then just like, I think maybe we should just try that, and then if, you know, there's some issues with it, kind
Yeah.
of correct them. But I think it's definitely like a good idea and something that I would support. And then yeah, if there's anything that comes up, we could revisit that policy change and just
Right.
kind of tweak it so it's like better, it works for everybody. So yeah,
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
support that.
yeah. I think we gotta keep making strides. Right, we gotta keep making move. The problem is it's just stays stagnant. It doesn't move, and that's why, you know, you see all people protesting because we feel like there's nothing being done, and years pass, and you just have to just keep it in the back burner, and then nothing's
Mhm.
moving. Um,
Yeah.
so I have a question for you. If you will have to ask a question to one single person, and they have to give you a truly answer, who will that be and what that question will be?
Oh, to one person.
One person, yes. Maybe
Hmm.
somebody that you admire.
Yeah, I admire Che Guevara. He's really,
Mm,
he I know he's not perfect. I know like there's some things that are like, you know, people are like, oh, but he did this and that, like, um but I think overall, like, I his intentions were really good, and he lived like the things that he spoke about. Like, he was like a real like revolutionary, and he
right,
like, even after, you know, he was like he accomplished one of his goals, which was, you know, to like take over Cuba and like all that stuff. Like, he still kept going. He's like, no, this isn't enough. Like, we need to like have a worldwide revolution. You know,
yeah,
he went to Congo and all that. So it's like he just like, his entire life was just like, you know, just really revolutionary, and just he was really about it. Like, he just, yeah, he did not play around. He was yeah. So I guess him. And I don't know what I would even ask him. What is what should we do next, I guess? That would be my question.
right,
But
right, right.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
think that would be a good question. Kind of like, okay, how can we, how can we get better? How can we approach it? What do you think it will be the next step for us to do? So, yeah, something around those lines. So, it talks about there's a lot of injustice and equality. Why do you think is we have so much of that in this world?
I think it all stems from like insecurity.
Mm,
um People, um yeah, I mean, people don't want to be at the bottom. And so in order to not be at the bottom, there's like, they need to put other people down, and they need to create like all these hierarchies, and start to hoard wealth and power and all those sorts of things. And so just being, yeah, insecure about like who they are, and being fearful of like being at the bottom. And so yeah, I mean, that's kind of like why I'm an anarchist, is because
Mm-hmm.
I don't these sorts of hierarchies. I think we should all just be equal, and you know, just like, you know, loving each other, sharing. I mean, that's like sharing is like a one of like the it's like a very basic thing that we learn in like kindergarten, but it's like so important. It's like sharing and caring, or sharing is caring. And so it's like just like those basic ass things that we think are like so universal, like they're like when we grow up, it's like it's not that way. And so just kind of reverting back to our like childish or childlike ways, I think would help us a lot. And yeah, but I think it all stems from like just insecurity and fear of like being at the bottom. And yeah, so
True.
mm,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I totally agree with you. It's kind of like that post that I seen is that people it turns veganism, right? When you're little, your parents tell you to eat your vegetable. When you turn vegan, they tell you why you eating vegetables. It's kind of the
right.
same thing.
Yeah,
Kind of goes
definitely.
around those lines, right? Like it's a lot of selfishness in this world.
Mhm,
So how can we get more involved? So I know you're there in LA. What are
mhm,
some of the organizations, if you have an organization that people can get involved, and tell us a
mhm,
little bit of that, or if there's any organization that you support or sponsor that we can contact if we want to get more involved in activism and be a truly anarchy as well, and support a lot of these causes, especially the injustice, inequality, and everything else that you stand for.
mhm. Well, definitely like BLM, that's like a big group to support. Yeah, there's a lot of groups. For like veganism, I would definitely suggest supporting uh, like a group like Encompass. Like they do a lot of work around like educating vegan groups about how to be like more diverse and inclusive.
Okay.
And like Food Empowerment Project is another group that like focuses on like helping farm workers. And then also they have like a whole list of like chocolate that's like vegan, and it doesn't support like child labor.
Mm,
um, so they're a really good group. And then for LA specifically, I would recommend supporting a group called Justice LA Now. They are working on they're like a prison abolition group.
mm-hmm,
And so they're working on, yeah, to abolish like the prison industrial complex,
mm,
and like police brutality too. They're working on that. And so yeah, I mean, just as vegans, you know, we don't like animals in cages. And so, you know, why should we also support the prison industrial complex when
mm.
there's, you know, like humans in cages? Like we should be working to abolish all of it. Like no one should be in a cage. No humans, no animals, no one. And so, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think a lot of the guys, a lot of the folks that when they go to jail, they come out even worse. You know, so much trauma. They're still delinquent. So I don't see most changing in that sense. It's a burden for the society. Plus, there's a lot of other factors to it. So I agree to that too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Thank you for that. That definitely gonna link some of some of these institutions and activisms into the descriptions of the video so people can go ahead and follow them. So for last, tell us a bit about your radical book club. What is the radical book club at Woke Vegana?
Yeah. So yeah, so this book club, I
Yeah,
started it, like actually I started it last year, but
yeah,
the way that I was doing it, it was very like unorganized. I was just like giving out books to people, and like there was like no like discussion about it. And so
yeah.
after taking like a long break, I took like a 6-month break off social media and just like started reading a lot, and just like, you know, had like just did some like work on myself. And so yeah, I just recently like revived that. And so it's so I do a book reveal on the first Wednesday of the month, and then we have the discussion on the last Wednesday of the month. And it's really easy to join. All the books are free, and you just like, you just have to be following me, and then you have to fill out the Google form. And then I'm adding a third step, and that is to share the book club, because I
Okay.
want other people to join. And yeah, like I said, it's completely free. And so, yeah, I mean, if you're vegan or non-vegan, whatever, like if you just want to learn about like other social injustices and just, educate yourself on on other problems of the world, definitely join that. Yeah, I think like the vegan movement, that's something that like it really, really lacks. It's like it's just so animal focused, and we need to start learning about other things that are affecting the world, just so we could, like, like I said, actually be a social justice movement and be more inclusive, so other people will want to join and feel safe in the animal rights movement. Mhm.
Okay, great. All right, so that's great. Do you have one like question? Do you think we can stop racism?
I think it's possible. I
Hmm.
think it is. um I think if there were like like certain people in power that were very anti-racist,
Right.
I think it could happen. And also, like, yeah, like racism, it like hurts everybody, not just like people of color. It's like it's
Right.
hurting white people, because racism was started to divide us so we wouldn't go after the rich people.
Mm,
And so it's like keeping us poor too.
right.
And
Right.
it's hurting like the poor white people. That's why it was started, so we could fight against each other and not fight against the rich people. And
Right.
so, yeah, I think people need to recognize that, and maybe like that could be like one thing that could, you like, if white people knew that, maybe that would make them, like rethink their racism, and maybe like start fighting with us, and
Yeah.
maybe we could get to a place where we could like start fighting the rich people.
Right. And for example, I don't so in my opinion, I don't think racism is something that you were born with. Like you don't born being hateful to people. That's something that was taught to you, basically, or something that was manipulated, or something that was some way or another influenced to you. Because I mean, a kid that is a baby is not gonna be like, oh, I don't want to hang out with that little black kid, or whoever the race is, right? So I think that's something that you develop with time. So it is a pattern or not. So I feel like the more we are, plus it's a beautiful thing to deal with people from all over the world. I'm not even going to just say black to white. Like it's just all over the world. Like it's a beautiful thing. I don't even know why that even exists. At the end of the day, it's just a beautiful thing that I can call another vegan my brother or my sister, right? Or even a non-vegan. But at the same time, it's like we had that fellowship from in between the veganism community, just a simple fact that, especially if you're an ethical vegan, right? Because because you you see we kind of see eye to eye in those terms. So you have that you automatically be gravitated to that person, right? So then when you start awakening, and then you wake up and then you start seeing some of the other injustice in the world, it even brings you even closer, and I think opens your heart even more. The good thing is once you cross over and you see, well, I understand the animal separation, then you can automatically see how people are also being impacted in this situation. So I think it allows you to have that compassion in you even broader. Some folks stays on the back burden and never wants to see the truth. So that's why I think things that what you are doing is great, because it allowed those people to see and open their eyes, to wake them up, right? That's the reason why it allows them to see that there is also another aspect of it. It's just not one sided. And then from the vegan standpoint, it's like, hey, you love animal, but this is also these other issues that you have to take into consideration that are very important. And I really appreciate you for doing that, and I encourage you to continue doing what you do it. And you're gonna have my support in anything that you need. 100%, I'm here for you and anything you guys, sister. So, um, tell the folks about your social media. When can I find them, and when can I get the link for the book clubs? And I'm also gonna link those. And it's all on your Instagram or somewhere else. You have a website or just on Instagram?
Yeah, it's so I have a website, and it's just like wokevegana.com.
Okay.
And to find the book club, you could just go to wokevegana.com/wokebook Wednesday. And then I have on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I also have a Snapchat and a TikTok, but I don't use them. I just have them. But yeah, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook are the main things that I use. So you can find me on there at woke vegana.
So we're gonna see what we're gonna do in some TikTok dances.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I'm like mad about the video stuff. Like even with this, I was like asking all these questions. I was like, is it gonna be filmed? So I don't know. Maybe if I get enough courage or something.
You know what would be a good idea for your TikTok? Is to record some of the rallies or some of the activism that you are doing, because I think that will be a good video material for people to see. I'm not saying just do it for the gram, for the promotion aspect of it, but mostly for, hey, you know, we are out here, we are doing this, you can join us, and it kind of like informative more than anything else, not just, you know, just to get the views, because I know a lot of people that rely on that, and I know your heart is really truly into making the impact in the world. But trust me, that things like that make a big impact, because you see kids scrolling and looking into stuff. Like, for example, I have a TikTok and I don't do any dances. What I usually do is I give information, like, you know, why I went vegan, some of the struggles that I went through, why I'm doing it, and I present some of those concepts. And I don't have like a huge amount of people following me, but a lot of people ask me questions. Oh, how do I do that? What do I eat? So I think that's the concept behind it. Like, okay, if I can able to help 1 or 2, 3 folks, that's less animal, less etc. And then we can take it to another step where once I have them over, and then I can refer them to you, and then we can start, you know, we can start creating this revolution bigger than what it already is.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. It's a good, good suggestion for sure.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you so much, Araceli. It's been a pleasure. Again, you know, is anything you need, I'm here for you. I'll definitely will like to say that, you know, encourage you to continue doing your activism, and I'll support you 100%. And hopefully we can make some changes in the world, or at least change some folks, and then start from there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I'm really glad I came across your page. I was like, what? Who is this? It's so cool. So yeah, thank you. Definitely fully support what you're doing too. I think it's so great. We need more, Black vegans, like Latinx vegans too. So it's beautiful. I love what you're doing. Fully support you too.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. All right, so I'll talk to you later, okay?
Gracias por escuchar Latino y Vegano, un show donde se habla todo lo relacionado sobre el veganismo entre la comunidad latina. No olviden suscribirse a este podcast, seguirnos en Instagram, Facebook, YouTube y a visitarnos en latinoyvegano.com.